You're listening to the Chillin' with the Dogs podcast, where we talk sports, mostly football, and a lot about the Browns. Our episodes drop Friday mornings. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. The more we hear from you guys, the better our podcast can be. All right, now let's get into it. Welcome into the Chillin' with the Dogs podcast. This is your host, Justice. I'm here today with my old man, and we're back after a couple weeks off. I've been pretty sick the past couple of weeks and haven't really been able to record, so that's why we kind of took a couple weeks off. And we didn't really have much good stuff to say about the Ravens game, so it's pretty good that we had a little break there. Got through the bye week and then had a big game on Sunday.
Yep, big game.
That game was huge. I missed it live, but I did get to rewatch it with the NFL Plus app. I had to stay off my phone for about 3 hours because I didn't want to get spoiled on the score. But Dad said it was a good game. Got to check it out with him, and man, I did not see it going that way at all.
Me neither. I didn't make any wagers this weekend at all, just because I was doing some work during the game, and I didn't want to be bothered with it. But had we done the podcast before, I would have put it at like 30-10 San Francisco. I would have expected it to be very similar to the Ravens game. But I was very surprised. So
yeah, and I honestly, I don't know, and we can get into that game now. So I don't know that game really, if you look at just the stats, it wasn't incredibly dissimilar from the Ravens game. Like, we still had lots of turnovers, some turnovers that turned into instantaneous points for them, which happened with DTR in the Ravens game. So I think the big thing was we were home and that defense was a little pissed off.
A little bit.
That defense looked crazy, and a lot of people are now talking about it being the best defense in the league. So,
well, they're doing historic things right now.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. The difference between this game, the 49ers game, and the Ravens game, I can't put my finger on it. I don't understand the difference. We had a third string quarterback, which he probably should have been second string, but that's a whole nother topic. But we had a third string quarterback come in, and he didn't look good. I don't think he looked good. I think he looked like Deshaun's looked through the first 5 games of the season, or 4 games, whatever, however many games he played. He didn't look any worse than Deshaun did against the Steelers. He didn't look any better than Deshaun did against the Titans.
He didn't look anything near what Deshaun looked in the Titans game, I think.
For a half?
Yeah. No, I think the thing is that when we needed certain plays, we got them. Like the Amari Cooper catch on the sideline. There was just some plays that went our way, and I think also, too, a big factor in the game that was different from the Ravens game was the amount of penalties. I think we made that game dirty, made it a physical game, and just, I don't know, wanted a bad
Some
game.
of those penalties were just bullshit. And
No,
both ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Both teams got screwed on penalties, and it was... They got to do something with these referees. Every game I've watched, it's like the refs suck.
Well, I think it's also, too, that the refs are, at least especially in this game, are impacting the way the game goes. Like, some of those calls, a lot of 49ers fans were upset about the hit on a defenseless receiver that Gibson had on
That was a hit
Elijah
on
Moore.
a defenseless receiver.
It was.
That's called in every game, every weekend. That same exact play. I've seen it over and over again.
Yeah.
We had it called against us in the Ravens game.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear it.
I know, but then again, you can go and look at all the other calls against the Browns, like the
bullshit holding call on Wyatt Teller. Yeah,
right.
That cost us a touchdown.
Right. So there was a lot of bad calls that I think, maybe somewhat evened out in the wash. But I think that was something that maybe benefited the Browns, having a game that had a lot of variables to it that they could kind of muddy their way through and play physically and win the day physically. Because when you, at least in, with football being a mostly physical sport, um, if you're having a bad day but maintain that physicality, that can, get rid of a lot of problems. So
I don't think they were having a bad day.
I don't either.
I think if we would have had the Tennessee Deshaun Watson, we'd have won 30 to freaking 17.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing too and I think that's one thing that's got a lot of Browns fans hopeful after seeing that game is all of the other elements other than the quarterback seem to be playing at a very high level. And so that tells you, hey, if you have a quarterback that can also play at a high level, then you can hang with any team in the league.
I've been saying it all year. I don't need a quarterback to play at a high level. I need a quarterback to play above average.
Right.
Yeah. I don't need Patrick Mahomes. I need Jacoby
Kirk
Brissett.
Cousins. Honestly,
no,
I think
Kirk Cousins. I've done a complete 360 or 180 on Kirk Cousins. That guy can play.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I've always said he was trash.
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't say and I think he's a very, very good quarterback. Like, I even would say he's top 7 maybe. But Kirk Cousins isn't Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, these guys. And so if you had Kirk Cousins, say, playing quarterback, I mean, it would be a walk in the park almost every week, it would feel like, with how talented the roster is and how they've been playing. I thought that I think DeJuan Jones gave up 1 sack that Bosa had.
No, he didn't.
Was that not on him?
Mm-mm. I guess not. Pro Football Focus, the great Pro Football Focus, I don't think had credited him with that sack. I think they credited the guard with that sack.
Yeah, because he had an inside move, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, if that's the case, DeJuan Jones played a great game.
I think the whole line played a great game.
Yeah, there was a couple of miscues, but other than that, it was pretty solid.
Well, you're not going to have 100% on every play.
Yeah, and especially with that defensive line they've got, it's crazy. So I was I was blown away. You remember my reaction after seeing us win? I was blown away that we won that game. I had no hope going into that game that it was really even going to be close. Once they announced that Deshaun was going to be out, I basically chalked that up to a loss.
Well, that's why I scheduled side jobs on that day.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even want to watch it.
Well, that's why I had no reason to go watch it at first. And then I hadn't been seeing any scores or anything. So it was cool getting the chance to go back and see it once you had said it was a close game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was awesome. I think Jerome Ford played a sneaky good game. He just looks so much different than Chubb, but Chubb's a one of one, He just had a couple of good runs that were really huge in the spots that he did them in, especially icing the game at the end there.
I don't know. Maybe I know I'm a huge Chubb guy.
I know.
But I watch that guy just get tackled with one arm. I don't understand it.
Well, yeah, I think we've been lucky to watch Chubb for like the past 5 years. I think that's unfortunately more common in the league than.
It's really not.
Well,
yeah, it's common in the running back by committee
right.
teams, but if you want to have a freaking good running back, they're telling me he's a 3-down guy. In my opinion, he's not. He's a 3rd-down back.
I agree.
Because you can't have. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he ran through our defense breaking tackles. I mean,
yeah.
Who else? You can list Eckler. Eckler's a little midget, but he breaks tackles.
Yeah, but both Christian McCaffrey and Eckler are much more solid than Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, to me, is more like Bijan, but Bijan still breaks tackles.
I was going to say,
I get what you're saying.
There's not very many running backs in the league that don't, like lead backs that don't break tackles.
Right.
I mean, Tony Pollard breaks tackles for crying out loud.
Yeah, well, Tony Pollard's pretty good.
Yeah, but he's built similarly to.
He is. Yeah.
What's his nuts?
Yeah, I agree. So we'll have to figure that out. I think Hunt had some good runs.
See, I think Hunt played a better game than Ford did, because he did all the hard running.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
And there was a play. It was a sweep right or something. It was to the right where he was stringing it out, and then he just cut and went straight up the field. It was like it wasn't a big gainer, but it was like he saw a hole and hit it. He did a chub. He saw a hole and hit it. Where forward, it's like sometimes I'm like, there's the hole, go, go, go. And he just doesn't. He just keeps going around, going around.
Yeah, he's got to work on his vision. I remember one play in particular. I can't remember what. I think it was in the third quarter. He had an amazing cutback lane that probably would have been 30 plus yards, and
he didn't hit it.
No, but he didn't see it either. I don't think so.
And one thing I'll say this about McCaffrey and Chubb, or not Chubb, Hunt. I saw Hunt doing it, like running up to his lineman and pushing him.
Yeah.
Guiding him where he wanted him to go, and then cutting off of that. Ford ain't doing that. He runs into the back of people.
Yeah. Well, that's a mark of people who have been in a good system like the Browns and the 49ers for a long time, and just being good backs as well. Yeah, that's a big staple of Chubb and Hunt, So maybe as Jerome gets some more weight on him, gets some more time in our scheme and everything, you might start seeing some of that, But again, too, he's a very young running back, and I think he's going to have some time in the scheme to get a little bit better and understand. Like the big thing with Chubb is we use a lot of pin pull action, and that's one thing that he really thrives on. But I don't know that Jerome Ford is at that caliber yet with some of the schemes that we have. So.
I don't think he'll ever be that caliber.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Breece Hall.
Yeah.
As soon as he touched the football in the NFL, you knew he was going to be good.
Right.
Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, all those guys, as soon as they touch the ball, you know they're going to be good. He's going to be a third down back. I think that's what he's going to be. But I've been wrong before. I was wrong about us winning that game. So, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was ever drafted to be the lead back anyway. To me, he would have been.
I think he was drafted to take Kareem's position.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, Kareem is a lead back, in my opinion. He's not Nick Chubb, but he's pretty dang good.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think that there's a lot of elements that as the season goes on, people can even start getting better. Like we were talking about, Njoku is always open.
Yeah.
There are people who I feel like can kind of a little bit transform some more throughout the year. A lot of times people will say, well, after the first quarter of the season, you kind of know who you are. Some things will deviate, but for the most part, you know what kind of caliber your football team is. And with this team, I think that we haven't really even shown the best we can be, not even close yet. So I think that you could start seeing Njoku get some more volume. I think you can see some of these receivers like Elijah Moore. He
was wide ass open a whole bunch.
I know. I don't think that he's been utilized to his full extent. I feel like a lot of these pieces haven't yet been utilized to what they can be.
Yeah, so. I definitely would say that with Marquise Goodwin too. He's way better. This goes back to the coach, and I want to say this. Stefanski coached a good game. That's the best game he's ever coached, in my opinion. I
completely agree.
Because he kept it simple, and maybe not simple, but I think people can say what they want. But I think they went into that game with the mindset, we have to do this and not do this, or we're going to get our asses killed. And that's how he should coach every game.
Right.
Not, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. Be damned, because 9 times out of 10, we're be damned. Yeah. And that might not make any sense, but.
I feel like he's a decent coach when the flow of the game is. You have to continue to put your foot down to stay in the game. I feel like where he sometimes gets lost a lot is when we have big leads, he takes it off a lot. And then, which I don't think Jim Schwartz is allowing him to do that.
See, anymore. I don't think he does that.
But I also think that when we're in, I don't know that he knows how to get back in a game when we're down big, like, say, the Ravens. Because at no point in that game once they started to pull away, did I think, oh, there's any chance?
If you go back and you watch every game that he's coached, they're the same game. They're the same game. Even in that game, what was Walker? Like 21 for 39 or something like that?
His stat line wasn't great.
Well, my point is, he threw it how many times?
Yeah, a lot.
Like, that is every game. It's every game, and it doesn't matter. The only time it's not that is when we're 3 and out.
Right.
Well, if we actually have sustained drives, if you go back and look, which I have not done, so I might be talking out of my ass, but I would bet an exorbitant amount of money that if you went back and looked through all the games, that it's not even. Like, which it's not going to be nowadays, like run pass. But if you actually watch the game, you'll find yourself saying many times, run the damn ball, Stefanski. Because he's in love with the fucking pass, man.
Well, I think the whole problem is that we just want Shanahan to be our coach because that's the perfect offense that we both like. But
no, that's not true at all. That's not. No, I do like Mike Shanahan or what Kyle.
Yeah,
I do like him, and I wish he was our coach. But he coaches. Okay, you want to compare the two coaches?
Sure.
Okay, so Shanahan utilizes his guys, and he makes plays for the guys that he has.
Right.
Our coach has plays, and he tries to fit guys into those plays.
Right.
Like, Amari Cooper is not a burner. He got caught by a freaking linebacker. He's not a burner. But what he is a great possession receiver, and he's a great contested catch receiver.
And route runner.
Great route runner, yeah, but he's not a burner.
Right.
So sending him on 40 yards downfield isn't a good idea. And the guys, like, we got Elijah Moore running crossers.
Well,
I finally saw some crossing patterns.
I think sending Amari downfield isn't bad because he's a good contested catch guy. But the expectation that he's going to take that 40-yard catch and make it a 70-yard touchdown catch is...
Well, no. My point with the whole 40-yard thing is Cooper is our stud.
Yeah.
So you send him 40 yards downfield, he's double covered.
Right. Yeah.
So then, guess what our quarterback does? They force feed him. And I got David Njoku standing 15 yards in the middle of the field with nobody around him. And the ball's going over his head to a guy who's double covered.
Yeah, and it seems like that's the case whatever quarterback we have in. I don't get it at all.
Because everyone wants to go to Amari. Because he's going to catch the ball.
Yeah, but Njoku's shown the same too.
I can't answer it. If I'm coaching that team, and Njoku, I'll say this till I die. Njoku is every bit as talented, if not more so, than Travis Kelce, and we do not use him. Kelce gets 12, 13, 14 targets a game, and Njoku gets 4. Like, okay, I get it. You got Cooper. Okay. If you take half of Cooper's targets, which I don't know what he had this last game, but let's just say he had 10 targets. If you cut those in half, because half the time he's fucking double covered.
Yeah, I think Cooper had 4 receptions this game for 100 and some yards.
108. I know that. I'll look up the stats, but
I think he had 7 targets for 4 catches and 108 yards, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I agree. That's why that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think there are people whose production is going to be elevated the more they are, used to the system and get going. Because Cooper is a great receiver, but he can't be the only guy that you rely on in big situations. Because if he's double covered on a 3rd and 2, you got to find another place. What my question is he might be the hot route on a lot of these, and Cooper and some of these receivers might be the hot route, and then Njoku might be like the 3rd or 4th progression in some of these, and that might be why he's not getting looks. So, like, say you have Cooper being the 1, Elijah being 2, and then DPJ being 3.
Well, I guarantee you that's how it's set up.
Yeah.
Because I got a guy standing wide ass open, and it's a lot. Not 100% of the time, but I'd say 50% of the time, there's not a guy within 2-3 yards of
Well,
him.
I will say, if you're trying to get it to your fourth progression in the NFL, that's sometimes hard.
Okay, if that's the case, I've watched. This is the 5th game they've played. In every game, David Njoku is wide open. I don't give a fuck if he's the 17th progression. The guy is wide open. Make him number 1.
Yeah.
If I'm the quarterback and I come up to the line of scrimmage and I know what defense they're in, what they're going to do roughly, and I see a safety scoot over to Cooper, he's no longer my 1. I don't give a shit how good a route runner he is.
That is the other thing, is there's a lot of times where I question how much pre-snap is being done with our quarterbacks, because you saw it with Purdy. There's several times where he's making reads at the line and instantaneously knows where to go with the ball. That's why they get the ball out so fast.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is my thing with it. Purdy goes to his first read, and his first read is always open.
Right.
Our first read is never open.
The scheme sucks.
Well, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But regardless of all of that, Stefanski managed the game well. I know everybody, when we were going down to score a touchdown, we ended up kicking a field goal. Walker boots out. He's supposed to run the ball to kill the clock. We were going to just run the ball.
Right.
Well, he tried to throw a touchdown pass.
Right.
And everybody's like, what are you doing? And I did it. What are you doing, Stefanski?
Yeah,
well, that wasn't on him.
Right.
Walker came out and said that was his bad, which, in all honesty, he should have yanked his ass out of the game right there and been like, dude, run the ball. Like, use your head.
Yeah. That felt a lot like what Jacoby did last year.
Yeah, a couple times.
So, yeah, that's something that, use situational awareness is really, really big. But overall, I would say, yes, I agree. Stefanski had a great day coaching. I think it was made easier a lot by the fact that our defense and Schwartz is playing out of their mind.
Yeah, but you can't have it both ways. I'm hard on everybody when it needs to be. And I'll say this. If the defense wouldn't have played the way they did, we'd have got our ass kicked.
Right.
But the defense played the way it did. They played like they started playing the Ravens that way.
Right.
And we're chucking the ball around. So, okay, we threw the ball 34 times. He was 18 of 34. They ran the ball 31 times. So I'd call that pretty balanced.
Yeah.
But at no point in that game did I not feel like it was balanced.
Well, based off the weather conditions, I would say that you'd want your balance even more so towards the running game, I think. In a game like that, given those conditions, because they were saying that the conditions were pretty rough. At least it affected Brock Purdy quite a bit.
So in the Ravens game, which we were down, we threw the ball 36 times with a rookie quarterback who looked like he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Right.
Like we basically always throw for 35. I think every game is like 35 attempts.
Which is way more than what Jacoby was doing last.
So
last year.
like Watson against Tennessee, 33. We threw 40 times against the freaking Steelers.
Right.
I mean, great. I kind of think I have to throw that game, just get rid of it in my mind, because that's when Chubb got hurt.
Right.
But it's like,
yeah, because if you remember that game before Chubb got hurt, we were feeding him pretty.
Yeah, we were.
I don't think that was necessarily the game plan going in.
And against the Bengals, we threw 30 times, right. And that was a shit show, weather-wise.
Right.
So but in that game, we had 33, 38, 40 rushes. Right. But, I mean, the weather really dictated that in that game.
Well, I think, too, with that, it's the season opener. You want to get some established good plays for Deshaun to kind of springboard off of going into the season. So I kind of get that one.
But, yeah, like Cooper had 8 targets, caught 4 of them. And, well, there was some of the – it's so hard to tell because that quarterback looks so bad, dude. Like –
which one?
Walker.
PJ?
Yeah, he looked bad. And everyone's like, oh, well – and this is the other problem I have. Okay, so PJ Walker is 1-0 as a starter for us. Right. Do you want to start him the rest of the year?
No.
Well, why not? He wins.
Yeah, well,
He's won more games. His percentage is way better than Deshaun's is.
yeah, yeah, it is. But
Well, okay, so what if Deshaun doesn't play this week and comes out and wins the next game? Then what?
it's against the Colts.
Oh,
We
so
should be able to not have a quarterback and win that game. In my opinion.
well, I thought that with the Steelers and the Ravens personally.
Yeah.
We didn't need a quarterback to win either of those games. And to be quite honest, we didn't have a quarterback in either of those games. Deshaun played like garbage. I would have rather put Harrison Bryant back there and freaking had him just run Wildcat. But okay,
That's saying something.
see, I'm getting negative, and I did not want to do that because that was a great. That is actually the kind of game I like. Snot nose, run the ball, beat the hell out of each other. Pre-game fights. I love that shit.
Yeah.
And that game to me was a great game.
Right.
I would have rather that game and win. And if we would have lost that game, I fully expected it to be 30-10. So
yeah.
if we'd have lost, if they'd have made that field goal and won, what would it have been? 20-19?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have felt bad at all. I'm like, we went toe to toe with what I think is probably going to be the Super Bowl champs.
Right.
So we should, and they set the bar high now, in my opinion. Like, there's no excuses. If we go into Indy and we don't beat them, it doesn't have to be 40-3. But we better beat the shit out of them.
You just gotta give. I don't even need you to do that because Indy has shown some competency so far this season. I just need you to win. And I know I said earlier, oh, we don't need a quarterback to beat them, but you do. But with that defense playing like it is, and them being on, I mean, their second string quarterback.
You know, the Browns are only favored by 2.5 in that game.
But it's on the road. So it would be, if it was neutral field, it would be 5. If it was home, it'd be much more.
No, if it was neutral field, we'd be favored by 1.
How so?
Oh, no, you're right. 5. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
my bad.
So I that doesn't bother me. Indy, see, the thing is like that.
Isn't Indy's defense decent?
No, they are very good. Yeah, they got Shaquille Leonard.
Yeah, so I mean that could be a Ravens game because to me, oh Jesus, they got my guy, DeForest. They to me, I rate them like the Ravens. I think the Ravens blow. The fact that they're 4-2, I don't even understand it. I can't wrap that around my head because I think Lamar sucks. I think their defense is overrated. And I think they just suck.
I think their schedule's been very easy.
So. The way, if I just looked at all the teams right now with the rosters the way they are, I would have Cleveland 1, Cincy 2, Baltimore 3, and Pittsburgh 4. And that's not even close to how it really is.
Not standing wise, but I think as the season plays out, that will probably be the way it goes. Because the Browns, they said, have the 7th easiest schedule going forward now in the league. Which, obviously, I think we played our hard. And I was telling you that when we were watching the game. I think we played our hardest teams on the schedule already. We played Pittsburgh at home, which no matter what, even if Pittsburgh sucks, is a hard game. The Ravens were at their place, right?
When we played them? Yeah. No, that was at home. We lost.
Oh, well, that's not good.
We lost both our home games to Pittsburgh and. Well, no, we played at Pittsburgh, yeah. But no, we have division games coming later. Like, let me look here.
I think it's Cincy at their place, right?
We play Baltimore November 12th at Baltimore.
Okay.
And then we play Pittsburgh at home. Last game is that this? No, I'm looking at the Ravens schedule right now. So the Ravens' next game is against Detroit. Then they got Arizona, Seattle, us, Cincy, Chargers, Rams. Like, their schedule isn't hard. Like, I mean, Christ, they play Arizona. They play the Chargers. Detroit. I hope Detroit swamps them. But, I mean, they've got, I don't know. I think the Ravens blow. They should be 2-4.
I think that it could be. I think it's going to be a crazy battle at the end of the year for the AFC North. Everybody was down on the AFC North in these first couple of weeks, but I think people are going to start turning themselves around. And the thing is that no one has said, but I think should be said, is no team is ever out of it with 2 losses. No team is ever out of it with 2 or 3 losses. So if you look at it, all of the AFC North teams still have the power to do whatever they want.
Right.
They were talking about like Cincy. Cincy's what? They're 3-3 now, right? I think.
I don't know.
I mean, they have everything ahead of them. If they win out, they go 14-3. That's a playoff team, first round bye.
So well, they ain't winning out.
I know, but I'm just saying, like.
So we play Indy, Seattle, Arizona. Those all should be wins.
Right.
Then we play Baltimore, Pittsburgh back to back.
Yeah.
Those have to be wins.
Those are going to be rough.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be, but those are going to be rough games in my opinion.
See,
the Pittsburgh game might not be. That's home.
I personally, if we go into Baltimore and lose, I'm going to feel just like I did all of last week and the week before.
That one I don't expect us to win. That's just being honest. I think we win the Steelers game, but the Ravens game at their place,
if we lose to Baltimore twice, there's no way we're winning the division.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to talk about before we get too far away, because I want to start talking a little bit about what we see going forward with the Browns. But before we wrap up the 49ers game, I just want to say the crowd, I feel like had a massive impact. The fans were huge.
Oh, definitely.
Game. The atmosphere, that was so sick. You could see it on TV come across. Like, that place was rowdy. There was a lot of 49ers fans there, too.
Yeah.
Which I think added to it. Like, it was like a battlefield, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think shout out to the fans. That was a good showing for us.
Well, okay. Yeah, the fans. Let's talk about the defense.
Okay, yeah. That defense is, I mean, there's people saying Del Pitt's playing like an all-pro.
He is.
There's people saying that GOK's turned into a superstar.
He is.
He's nuts. They were talking about how much Maurice Hurst, a guy who was questionable to even make the roster, is making a huge impact on the team. Like, every single player, Alex Wright looked like I was.
Dalvin Tomlinson looked like he was unstoppable.
Yes, like that defense is full of. Right now, it seems like freaks. They're playing out of mind, and it's the craziest thing. I keep saying it, and it's probably not something that's really matters. But looking at the defense this year compared to last year is like a complete 180. It's totally different, and it's just cool to see that the talent that we thought we had last year is finally playing to what we think they are.
Well, if you remember last year, we were talking, why are we playing zone?
Yes, I personally.
And if you think about it, if you look back and watch that 49ers game, when we got torched, we were in zone.
See, the thing, yeah, exactly. And the thing is being a prior quarterback, zone is my favorite thing to go against because there's always holes in the zone, and that's the one thing that makes Travis Kelce such an unstoppable force is if you have receivers who have any degree of intelligence and know how to read defenses, that's a walk in the park all day. If you can first establish what they are pre-snap and then educate your receivers on what that is and what their new assignment needs to be, then you can run.
You shouldn't have to do that in the pro level. Those guys should know as much as the quarterback does what the defense is doing.
But even if they don't, I mean, if you have a decent quarterback who can read defenses, zone, it's easy to pick apart. Now, obviously, there are ways to disguise things and all that, but zone leaves you with holes, whereas man, if you have people who can play man, there's not holes. And you're going to make people have to make contested catches all day. And that's what we do.
Well, not only that, then you got a guy or two floating around just waiting to pick the ball, which I'm hoping now we'll start getting some turnovers.
Right. Yeah, it was good to see Martin Emerson get his first pick.
Yep.
That was cool. That was long overdue. The scary thing is I think we have 3 lockdown corners.
We do.
Like
we actually have 4.
Yeah.
That, he's not a corner, but you can put Delpit's playing like freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Chosen one?
No.
Ronnie McLeod?
Yeah, McLeod. He can play man pretty good. I like that guy.
Yeah,
He looked good.
huge.
Yeah.
And he's been a vet for so long too. I feel like he's getting a little bit of a revitalization. And I hope a lot of these vets that we brought in are. I feel like they're feeding the culture and making that locker room a lot of fun.
That's why I've wanted vet players.
Right.
Like we keep drafting all the like the Watson signing was a blessing and a curse. He hasn't played like Deshaun Watson. That's anyone who's listened to me knows I don't really like him. But the blessing part of it is we're not drafting a bunch of picks and we're cutting vets to start these draft picks, and I think that hurt our culture, and I've thought that for years. Our defense, we always draft Newsom. This is what his second season, third season. Emerson's second season. Right. So like those guys are lights out right now, lockdown guys for the most part. I mean, and then you got Ward. I mean, that dude's just a freak.
Right.
So, but in previous regimes, those guys are gone because we've traded them to get some other pick or whatever. And you got to have it mixed. It's got to be mixed. You got to have your vets, and you got to have like the Patriots. They always want to get veteran guys. They took everybody's misfits when they had Brady and turned their team was always good, but it was always vets. They didn't have nothing for rookies. And the Steelers do the same thing. They'll draft their guys, but they got vets, and I'm hoping that turns into our team, because I'm pretty sure Tomlinson and Zadarius are both on one-year deals, which would be cool to have them back. I mean, Z hasn't gotten many sacks at all, but he's a force in the game.
Yeah.
Like, I watched the D-line, and wasn't much to watch this week. Tomlinson was blowing everything up. Right. Hurst was in. That just makes me giddy watching those guys play defense. I love it. And then JOK just everywhere.
Yep.
That defense, it's the best defense I've ever seen. Right now. I mean, it could turn into crap, but right now, that's the best defense I've ever seen.
I am curious. I really would love to see, because the 49ers defense is also very good. I would be curious to see what Steve Wilkes would have to say about that team, because he coached everyone. They were talking about it in the broadcast. He coached Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs. He coached Luke Kuechly. He coached, obviously, Fred Warner and Greenlaw now. So he's coached some of the best linebackers to play the game. I'd be curious to see what he thought about that defense Sunday, watching us, because I think a lot of the same things that can be said about those linebackers are things that our linebackers are doing. We don't have the long-term success of that. But like when I was watching JOK play this weekend, I saw a lot of Luke Kuechly, like reading the line, filling the gap, stuff like that. He looks so good. And that's the other thing too, is we got guys that we haven't seen that look similar to what these guys do, like Diabate.
Right.
We haven't seen him at all.
Right.
And Alex Wright this week stood out to me a lot. And he's hardly getting playing time behind Okoronkwo, who's just playing like a freak. Z, who's playing like a freak. All it's crazy. The linemen, you can just put.
Do you know that Okoronkwo has started? Well, I don't know if he technically has started, but he's played in, I think, 12 or 13 games, and he has a sack in every game that he's played in.
That's crazy. That's
so
crazy.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And he's the smallest guy that we have. Remember when we first got him, I was telling you, I'm like, well, isn't Von Miller a small dude?
Yeah.
Like, he's not big. He's strong, freakishly strong.
Yeah.
But I think Obo might be quicker. He might not be as strong.
He's definitely not as strong. I don't know if he's quicker than Von. There is a lot of similarity in the game, though.
I don't know. If you watch that Niners game, he's a freaking nightmare.
Yeah. The one thing that sets Vaughn apart, well, one of the things is his flexibility.
Right.
You know, how he gets off the ball, all that different stuff. I see a lot of that in Okoronkwo. It's just
Well, he's not Von Miller,
right.
but he's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think he was. Well, you can't count Miles. I mean, he just. I don't know. The fact he hasn't won Defensive Player of the Year, I don't understand. I understand he didn't get the sacks that T.J. Watt got, but I watched T.J. Watt single one guy blocking him all the time.
Yep.
There's nobody like Bosa was double teamed, but not like Miles.
Miles, the problem is that they completely on defense they completely put a wall up against him, and he regularly gets through the wall. He gets through a lineman, a tight end, and a chipping running back all the time.
Right.
And no one else in the league does that. No one else in the league do offenses change the entire way they play, where they get the ball out maybe even a full second faster than they normally do because Miles is coming.
Right.
He is, and I wasn't alive. I've seen highlights, but I have never seen a defensive end be as dominant as him. I know that there's defensive ends like Lawrence Taylor. He's a linebacker, but I know there's other defensive ends who have been dominant like that in the past. I'm blanking on the guy from Green Bay.
Reggie White. Well, he wasn't an end. He was a tackle.
Okay, well,
he was an inside guy.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody play the way that he does and have success through mostly insurmountable odds. There's no reason why anybody should be able to get through three guys and still be making plays, and he does. So
regularly. Yeah.
That's the thing that no one that talks about, because like if even the national media, they all say, yeah, T.J. Watt's amazing. He's won Defensive Player of the Year and everything, but everybody still gives Miles the props, even coming in second place in a lot of those.
But he doesn't get voted for it.
Are those votes from his peers or
no?
Those from?
Those are from writers. I don't know. I don't know how it's done, but I heard something the other day.
So I feel like if it's from his peers, he would have an edge there. Whereas if it's like writers and stuff, they're more prone to look at just stats.
Yeah, it's just stats. One thing I would like the fans to do at home games. Okay, so we went to a Blue Jackets hockey game.
Right.
Okay. Well, the New York Rangers is who they were playing. Shout out Blue Jackets, stomping a mud hole in them, walking it dry. Loved it. Anyway, their goalie is named Igor something. So there was two younger kids sitting in front of us with their girlfriends. And the one kid he would just, every time we'd score a goal, he'd just start going, Igor, Igor. And then he'd like do it a bunch and he'd go, it's all your fault, Igor. And then that was like the first period he was doing that and it was killing me. So the second period comes and we scored like 2 goals. And he goes, Igor. And like in between his breaths, I yell, we're coming for you. And then he goes, Igor. And I yell, we're coming for you. And then like the third period, it's going around the stadium like that. Yeah. He'd yell Igor, I'd yell, we're coming for you. And then it'd go like to behind the goal, he'd say it. And then across on the other side would say it. Then the other end would say it. That's what the Browns fans need to do. Like, Purdy, he's coming for you. Like one side of the stadium chants Purdy and the other side's like, he's coming for you. Yeah. At the like right before the snap of the ball. Dude, that would be so intimidating.
Oh yeah, well that's the kind of stuff you see a lot in college. So if they can start bringing some of that crowd energy, because like, and I think maybe that's something that Brown social media should do, because you see a lot of like when I was in Clemson, a lot of the games you go to, there would be specific things that the crowd would do, given who they're playing. So like say when they played the Gamecocks, there would be certain chants that were along with that. So like, I think that that's definitely something that, you know, and they would do that from the social media and create that energy. So I think that's something that would be so cool. And I think that's something that gives your defense an identity. We've been talking about, well, what's the Browns' identity? What do you call this team? Like, are they the monsters on the Erie or whatever? There's a lot of different names that I think if you start getting some of that fan interaction stuff, you can start kind of seeing so maybe something, especially if this defense is going to be historic, then I think that it's important to maybe find a name for him. So,
Well, you got to let that go organically. You can't
right.
just force it. But I think I'm going to call the really big show or something tomorrow and say, hey, and tell that story about the thing, about
Oh
Igor.
yeah, yeah,
Because I think that'd be cool, man. Like one side of the stadium says the quarterback's name and the other side says we're coming for you.
yeah.
That would be badass.
Well, the other cool thing too is you always have Miles. Like one of his big things, right? Is he always likes putting the tombstones in
Right.
front of his house. Halloween's coming up. If this defense continues to play like it is right now, I think that there's a lot of fun like Halloween names you could make with them. But no, the defense is just ridiculous. There's not. They were talking about every week they talk about, well, there's an all pro at every level for the 49ers. There's an all pro on both sides. There's an all pro running back. Right now, Purdy's playing like an all pro quarterback. There's an all pro tight end, all pro lineman, all pro receiver, and Debo. And maybe Brandon Ayuk now.
I would say Ayuk over Debo right now.
Right. And then you got on defense, you got Bosa, Warner, and then secondary, you've got their, I can never remember his name.
Tre'Davious Ward.
No, well, it's the other guy, the safety that was a rookie last year.
It's a Hawaiian name like Palomalu.
Yeah. So they have it all there. I would say that the Browns aren't too dissimilar. Obviously, if Chubb was still here, you'd have an all-pro. Deshaun has been a Pro Bowl quarterback before. You got all-pros all throughout our line. You've got Amari, who's a Pro Bowler. On the defensive line, I mean, there's going to be plenty of people that can be there. Linebackers, JOK, Denzel Ward, all of our corners, Delpit. So I think it's very similar. You heard that on the broadcast, them talk about, they always have all pros at every level. Well, the Browns are starting to become a team very similar to that. I think that's huge going forward.
Yep.
And if you want to be the team that we expect them to be, I think that defense through 5 weeks has to just continue to be what they have been. If they continue to be what they are, then they're one of the greatest defenses ever.
Right.
So, I think that, like I said, I think they've had probably with that offense, they just played one of the hardest tests that they'll have all season.
I think that's the hardest test that they'll have all season.
Right. The dogs agree. So, but all right. So, kind of coming out of the San Francisco game, I wanted to kind of wrap up the first quarter of the year with a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to do Browns related stuff, and then we'll go into NFL in total.
Okay.
So my first question, we're going to go through like awards for the Browns for the first quarter.
Okay.
So far, who is your MVP of the Browns for the first quarter of the season?
Jim Schwartz.
Okay. I like that.
Jim Schwartz.
All right. So I agree with that. I think that Jim Schwartz was huge. Probably this was going to be my next question, so I think that it's going to be the same for you. What's the biggest off-season acquisition?
Jim Schwartz.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that knocks that out. I agree with you completely on both of those. I think that, as we were talking about earlier, he completely changed the way that this defense.
What did I tell you when they hired him? Do you remember?
He told me a lot of things. But the one thing I remember is you've wanted to have him since, like, you wanted him to be our head coach at one point.
Yeah, when the Lions fired him, I wanted him to be our head coach.
Right.
Because I knew how it would be.
So basically what you're saying is you think we have 3 head coaches because Boba Ventrone is also probably going to be a head coach someday.
He ain't there yet.
Yeah.
I would say check the brakes on that one. But Jim Schwartz, I said it when we hired him. I loved it. A lot of people were like, he wasn't worth a damn with the Lions, blah, blah, blah. He made the Lions a playoff team.
Right.
And the Lions' defenses, while he was there, was good. And he is good. He's a why do I keep forgetting the safety's name? McLeod?
Yeah.
He said Jim Schwartz is a culture changer.
Yeah.
When they got Rodney McLeod, they interviewed him on Cleveland Browns Daily, and he said Jim Schwartz. They're like, what's one thing that everybody needs to know about Jim Schwartz? And he said he's a culture changer. He's going to come in and shit's going to change. And it did. I mean, okay, yeah, we did get D linemen. We got Tomlinson, Hurst, Zadarius. That was Jim Schwartz saying, these are the guys. I need guys like this. And Barry went and got those type of guys. They wanted to get Javon Hargrave. I think we got as good, if not, well, maybe not better, but Tomlinson's pretty damn good. Even, I mean, this game you saw him. They were saying his name. But in the games past, he was doing his job. And with Schwartz, if you're not doing your job, you're not going to play.
Right.
That's the way it is. Whereas the difference between him and Stefanski that I think is okay, PJ Walker goes out there and Elijah Moore was wide open. I think it was maybe 2 consecutive plays. If it wasn't consecutive, it was within the same drive. Wide ass open. And he missed him by yards. And Schwartz would have pulled him off the field and chewed his ass. I don't know. I don't want Stefanski fired. And I don't even know if I want him not calling plays. But I know one game out of, and even the Tennessee game, I didn't like his play calling. Like when he called certain plays and just the play that he called, it's like, I mean, we won the game and we won this game. But I can't think of a play that he called this game that I didn't. Well, other than when I thought that he called a pass play and Walker just ad-libbed and threw the ball on his own accord. That wasn't the play. I mean, I would have fired him right then. If I was the owner of the team, I'd have fired Stefanski right there. But knowing what I know now, he didn't call that. He was supposed to run the freaking ball. Right. And he didn't. That's the only play that he called that I didn't like. But had he ran, I mean, when Walker come around that corner, he could have ran for a touchdown. And he threw the ball. Right. It's like, what are you doing? And I think I even said this. What are you doing, Stefanski? And it wasn't him. So that would have been the only play call that I didn't like. But I did like the call if the quarterback would have ran the ball. So, but that's the only game that I can think of that I can remember that I can't really bitch about his play calling.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times too, it's hard to tell if, given that example, I think it's hard to tell sometimes if it's a good play call or not too, because the execution isn't there. One thing that, for some reason, even still, the Browns offense doesn't execute the way that a lot of elite teams do. So I think that definitely hurts the play calling as well, because like Andy Reid makes some whimsical, crazy plays, but if he didn't have people to execute them, they would look stupid. So I think there's parts of that as well.
So are you saying then that Andrew Berry is not giving him the right people? Because it can't be, you can't have it both ways. It's got to be somebody's fuck up.
Well, I think it maybe is several. I don't think you can just pin it on one. I don't think that Andrew Berry has any say in it. I think it is Stefanski's fuck up. But it might not be his fuck up on play calling. It might be the way he's coaching certain plays that it's not being put across how to execute them the way that he's wanting to. There's several different factors to it. Or,
well, okay, so let me ask you this question.
It's definitely not talent. Like,
is it?
I don't think so. I think that if you put Njoku on the Chiefs, he does the same things Kelsey does. I think that if you put, I think Cooper usually tends to execute, but I think if you put some of these other players like Elijah Moore, DPJ on those teams, I think that they execute. I don't know, but anyway, that's off topic a little bit.
Well, no, it's not. It's because you got questions that you want to ask, but the question, well, whatever. Just go ahead. Ask your next one. Because I can go down that rabbit hole for hours.
Okay. All right. So then, who would you have as our offensive player of the year so far?
Other?
Other? You don't think they've been found yet?
No. I want to say DeJuan Jones, but I can't say DeJuan Jones. If I went game by game, I would say the offensive line just sucked until this last game. They played phenomenal. It sure in the hell wouldn't be Deshaun. The running backs aren't good. I mean, they had a good game, but Cooper, he's the only one I can think of. But in all honesty, he's always double covered. He's always covered.
Right.
So, like, I don't know. The offense, I'm torn because I've seen horrible, horrible Browns teams where the defense and the offense both suck.
Right.
But I've also seen teams where the offense looks great, like Stefanski's playoff run. The offense looked great. Baker looked great. Everybody looked great. And then the defense sucked. So I look at our team and I see a bunch of, on offense, there's talent. Like Njoku is always, I told you this every week, he's always open. And either, this goes back to what we were just talking about. I can't pick an offensive MVP. I just can't. Because I don't like I can't put my finger on what it is. I watch the games, I see guys open, and I see guys wide ass open, and I see quarterbacks throwing to double covered guys, or throwing picks, or not even coming close to their wide ass open guys. And I see an offensive line, for some reason, up until the Niners game, has looked way below average. Like, I wouldn't put the Browns offensive line in the top 15 right now. After that game, if you took the Niners game out of it, I would say the Browns were 16, 17 offensive line in the league.
I don't disagree with that.
And then our receiving core, I would put it like below average, so 15 to below. Running backs, I'd put maybe at 15. If Chubb's there, it's number one.
Yeah.
But I think losing Nick Chubb hurt everybody else.
I think our running back core is well below average right now.
Oh yeah.
I think our line had its hardest test of the year and played probably one of its best games. So hopefully that's trending upwards. But I agree with you. I think that they're below average. I think that Deshaun has been below average. But you see that it's all there. It is all there. They had a game where they played against a good team and put it all together, mostly. So it's hard to judge a lot of these questions I'm going to ask you because it is such a small sample size and they're just starting to get to where they are, like who they are. So the offensive player of the year for me probably would be DeJuan Jones so far, just based off of what he's done, like who he's gone against, how he's fared in those things.
That's sad.
It is.
That a rookie right tackle is your player of the year.
So far. And that definitely could change. But, Deshaun could take that over eventually. I would hope that based off of all the hype that Elijah Moore got and David Njoku got in training camp, that they could take that over. But
see, that can't happen.
If Jed Wills turns into a left tackle to be, a franchise guy, he could take that over. But I don't know. We'll see. Well, that kind of goes into my next question, which would be offensive or not offensive. We're just going to do rookie of the year for the Browns.
For the Browns?
Yeah.
Well,
easy.
there's only one rookie that really plays.
Right. Which is a testament to how good the roster is, in my opinion.
Right.
So DeJuan obviously is the rookie of the year, and he honestly, to me, hasn't really looked much like a rookie. There has been some things that makes him look like that, but for the most part, he's taken on Bosa, he's taken on Watt, he's taken on. I don't remember who in Tennessee, if he had Arden Key or.
I can't remember.
But he's played against some of the best edge talent in the league and mitigated a lot of that damage. So I've been incredibly impressed by him. I think another question I want to ask now going into it is, who do you think our defensive player of the year is so far?
Oh.
I think this is probably the hardest question.
No, the hardest question was the offensive one.
Oh.
This one you can pick. You could say 5 names and you couldn't be wrong.
Right.
Overall, I'd have to say Miles, just because he's affecting everything. Everything that defense does, he's affecting it. But I will say this: when Miles isn't on the field, we don't really lose much.
No.
So I could argue that now Cash didn't like that. He's a Miles fan. JOK is playing pretty damn good. Delpit is playing really good.
That's fine.
The corners are playing real well. I'd say Ward. He's basically Revis Island right now. I think he was targeted. He gave up 2 catches last week against Ayuk. I think no. I think he was in zone and gave up 2 catches. I don't know how they broke it down. I heard that stat today. I was driving to a job and heard it on the radio that he only allowed 2 catches for 12 yards or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that defense has so many people, it's hard to say. For me, it'd probably be Delpit, just based off. And also, too, that kind of...
Delpit hasn't had a bad game yet.
No, he hasn't. And the D-line, I think, is a product of the sum of the parts. I think that Myles Garrett headlines that. But everybody else feeds off one another. And it even goes into what we were saying earlier, how even though Za'Darius isn't getting sacks, he's causing impacts for others. He's causing pressures, and it's impacting the game even if it doesn't impact the stat line. That's the case.
The quarterbacks get rid of the ball so fast. It's like the sack numbers don't bother me. It's nice to get them and see them, but the numbers don't bother me. The turnovers, not getting the turnovers, to me, a 3 and out is a turnover. I mean, granted, they're punting the ball away, but it's a turnover, in my opinion. Now, if they go 9 plays and out, I mean, that's 30 yards gained, and then they're punting for another 40. It changes the field position. But if it's a 3 and out and you're getting the ball on your own 35, 40-yard line after a punt, I'd call that a turnover.
Right.
So, plus 2, I mean, Cincinnati, I don't think Cincinnati got a first down till the middle of the 4th quarter. So, I mean, that was 9, I'm guessing, 9 3 and outs.
Right.
So, I mean, damn, if you're getting that, you're not getting opportunities. That's 27 plays.
Yeah, and then also, too, tackles for loss are, in my opinion, just as good as sacks.
Right.
And we just get endless amounts of tackles for loss, too. So the sack numbers are a big stat that everybody cares about, but it doesn't tell the whole story with a lot of those.
Well, I would say this year, like, say, for instance, Miles ends up with 16 sacks. I don't know how many he has now.
He had 5.5, I'm pretty sure, going into that game, and he got 1.
But let's just say he ends with 16 sacks, and he leads our team in sack total, and none of that other stuff matters. But say he has 15 sacks. Let me look here. What's he got right now? Garrett has 5.5 sacks right now.
Okay.
So we're a quarter through the season. So let's just say he ends up with 16. That seems to be what he's had average the last few years. And he has 16 sacks, but our defense is ranked number 1 in the league, and they're only allowing 10 on average 10 points a game. I mean, how the hell do you not give it to that guy?
No, I agree.
Especially if somebody looks back and is like, okay, the difference between the Browns defense, the quarterback gets rid of the ball in 2.1 seconds, and every other defense, the quarterback's getting rid of the ball in 4 seconds. Right. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah. Like, a full second is a big deal.
That's 10 yards.
Well, there's like 2 or 3 plays where, like, I watch Njoku a lot too. So when I watch the All 22 or I'm watching the Amazon with the Prime Stats feed, you watch him, and if it was 1 second, if the quarterback could hold the ball 1 second longer, Njoku's wide. I mean, wide ass open. Right. Down the seam or something like that. He just ran past somebody. It's just 1 second makes so much difference, and other defenses aren't giving that to their team. You know what I mean? You know, follow what I'm saying?
I get it. Dog, settle down.
And did it pick that up? And yeah, when we talk about the defense, the dogs just get going crazy. They just love the defense. But anyways, 1 second's such a big deal, and you wouldn't think 1 second would make that big of a difference, but it really does.
It does. Yeah, and I think my thing is that could be the case. He could have 16 sacks. Our defense could be the best in the league, and I think he still won't win it. The reason being is I think right now, going into last week, I'm pretty sure TJ Watt had 7 sacks and is on pace to break the record. So if he ends up breaking the record, then there's no way Miles gets it. But that's the only thing that I could think. If they continue to be this defense throughout the rest of the season, the only thing that I would think that would take away from his ability to win Defensive Player of the Year is if someone else has a singular, like, personal crazy season. Like if Bosa has 22 sacks or Watt has 23 sacks and breaks the record, something like that. But he's playing like a freak, and he's nuts. And it's really cool to finally see him in a defense that's deserving of his talent, in my opinion. Because for the most part, the past, 5 years, he's been one of the bright spots on the defensive line, the only bright spot.
Right.
So I think that it's cool to see him in a crazy defense and headline it,
Yep.
So, yeah, that was some of the questions I kind of want to ask to kind of give a good grasp of who you've seen as players or coaches who have impacted the team and changed it a lot. So I guess to kind of bring in the league a little bit more, I'll ask kind of similar questions. So far throughout the season, who do you think is the MVP of the league?
So far?
Yeah.
MVP.
And there's no, after this weekend, the Eagles lost, obviously San Francisco lost, so there's no undefeated teams anymore.
I'd probably say right now Tyreek Hill.
Okay, that kind of goes in line with mine. Mine would have been Tua. But I think there's a lot of people you could consider, like CMC could be up there.
Yeah, actually, I changed my mind. It would be McCaffrey.
Yeah. I think you have to look at some of those teams right now that are kind of juggernauts, like Miami, Eagles, Dallas, 49ers. Look at those teams to kind of find your MVP right now.
I would say, in all honesty, if Eckler wouldn't have been hurt, he probably would have been my first choice.
Yeah.
But he missed a couple games, and they suck. The Chargers suck. But I don't look at MVP like everybody else does. I don't think it's a quarterback award.
Right.
Like Tua, there's no way in hell I give it to that guy.
Well, then that kind of goes, because everyone does say the MVP is a quarterback award, and that's why we have the Offensive Player of the Year award, which so far, who do you think that is?
So why don't they just call the MVP the best quarterback award?
I don't know.
Because it's not the most valuable player. I mean, if you take Tua off the Dolphins, granted, they might not be as good, but I think if you take Tyreek Hill off the Dolphins, they're not as good because I can change my whole. I can stop this guy and I can stop this guy,
Right.
and then Tua sucks. Whereas, like we're seeing it, our quarterback isn't good, and pause that.
You were talking about. I'm gonna cut this anyway.
Okay.
So you were talking about our quarterback. So you were talking about Tua. If you
Took him out.
right, and then going into our quarterback.
Okay. So it goes to our quarterback would be like, okay, we lost Deshaun for 2 games. One game we had a quarterback come in, played like garbage. The second game we had a quarterback come in my opinion, didn't play very well, but we won the game with good defense and we actually ran the ball. So if you take Tua off of the Dolphins and put, I don't know, Jacoby, well, that's not a good one because I love Jacoby. You could put any quarterback on that team that's decent, that's just a capable quarterback. Like, maybe not Carson Wentz because he blows, but like, who was the guy that won the Super Bowl with the Eagles?
Nick Foles.
Foles. You put Foles on that team, they're going to be good. They're going to be damn good because they have Tyreek Hill. Now, you take Tyreek Hill off the team, I can shut down that offense. I think. I would love to. I can't wait. I think, do we play them? I wish we did because I think our defense would eat them up. I think we would eat them up because Tua just sits back there. He has all day to throw the ball. And, I mean, when Tyreek Hill's catching the ball 50 yards downfield, he ain't going to do that against our defense. Right. It ain't happening. But our offense, it doesn't matter what quarterback we have, it's the same. It's exactly the same. And we actually went from a career backup quarterback with Jacoby to a supposed superstar quarterback, and our offense looks worse. So the whole quarterback being the MVP thing is bullshit. They just pick the best statistical quarterback and give him the MVP, and that's crap. Because if I took that quarterback and put him on another team, he's not going to be the same guy. It just ain't going to happen.
Yep.
I mean, Tom Brady was, other than Joe Montana, Tom Brady's the only one I can think of that ever did anything like that.
Right. Well, I think that's a sound argument because a quarterback is supposed to be a point guard and they're supposed to distribute the ball effectively. And so if your people that you're distributing the ball to aren't good, then it doesn't matter how good you are.
Right.
So, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Well, I mean, look at Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mahomes, they were talking about him winning back-to-back MVPs. That ain't happening. And he's Patrick freaking Mahomes. He's one quarterback, I would say you put him on any team and they're going to be good.
Yeah.
Just because he's damn good. Like, he should technically be the MVP every year. If that's a quarterback only thing. But there was years like, I think Aaron Donald should have been the MVP.
Right.
I could make a case that if you take Miles off of the Browns team right now, they'll still be good. It's the same argument as a quarterback. They'll still be good, but guess what? They're not going to be nearly as good as when he's on the field.
Right. So
the whole MVP argument is bullshit. But, okay, so you were asking me about Offensive Player of the Year? Oh, God. McCaffrey, if he ain't the MVP.
So you're taking Tyreek as the MVP and McCaffrey as the offensive player?
No, I would take McCaffrey as MVP. Mm-hmm. But if he's MVP, he's also Offensive Player of the Year.
That's the other thing too. Why if you are the MVP of the entire team and the entire league, why wouldn't you also be the winner of your side of the ball as well? I never understood that.
Right.
Like when Cooper Kupp had the Triple Crown,
right.
He didn't win MVP, won Offensive Player.
Right. He should have won it. He should have won MVP.
Right.
He was the most valuable player on any team that year.
Right.
And I don't give a damn about no freaking quarterback.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. For me, offense. So I would probably take CMC as my MVP. and then I would probably take Tyreek Hill as my offensive player of the year so far.
Wait, so you're feeding the machine?
Why?
Because you just said, how can that be? He wins MVP, but he doesn't win Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, but if you're gonna go off of what they do, then that's what I would do. I mean,
well, this is our world, man. We're not in this biased NFL.
Well, then I would take CMC for both, and that's probably me being a little bit of a 49ers fan, and I also like CMC from when he was in Carolina.
Well, okay, so Christian McCaffrey, if you are a betting person, is a guaranteed. If he's playing, he's scoring a touchdown every week. It's guaranteed.
It's historic right now.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. So he is the Offensive Player of the Year. There's no other player in the league that can say that.
Right.
So if he's MVP in my world, he's got to be the OPY.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so that kind of covers the offense. How about the Defensive Player of the Year? Who are you taking for that so far?
Well, I'd take Miles, but I'm biased because I watch the games and I know how much he affects everything that the offense does.
Right. I would take Miles as well. My runner-up would probably be Fred Warner. I think Fred Warner's having a crazy, freakish year.
I'd probably go with Micah.
Yeah?
Second. Yeah.
Okay.
TJ Watt, I mean, I watched the Dallas game last night, and they were triple teaming. He's getting the Myles Garrett treatment now, Micah.
Well, even Micah called Miles Big Bro in one of his Instagram posts.
Well, yeah. But I would have him second right now. But if Khalil Mack keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to be in the conference. He had 6 sacks 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And I think I was questioning where the hell has Khalil Mack been?
You were.
Our last podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe he's listening.
Yeah.
If you are, bro, love you.
Yeah, I love him too. No, I think Miles, and this might be the homer in us, but I just don't think anybody changes the game on defense like he does. Like, he completely changes the way offenses play. It even gives offenses less time in total to operate.
Right.
No one else is doing that.
No.
I love Fred Warner, and he is freak, does all sorts of crazy stuff, but he isn't doing that, I don't think.
No.
And so then I don't know how much you know about the rookies that have been playing this year, but who would you put as your offensive rookie of the year so far?
Oh, that receiver for the Rams.
Packer?
Yeah. So far, yeah. Well, isn't he? He's doing historic shit too.
He is. So for me, my offensive rookie of the year would probably be, and I can never get his name right because he's changed it a little bit, but the rookie running back for Miami, Arcan.
He's on IR now.
He is, but so far through the first bit, so far he's my rookie of the year.
See, I'd have to go with the guy from the Rams. He's freaking crazy.
Yeah, he is. And
I don't even understand. They drafted him in what, like the 6th round or something like that? How the hell a guy like that get that far away? Jeez.
Imagine the Browns had drafted him. I like Tillman a lot, though. I'm excited to see him start doing some stuff. Probably not this year. But...
Well, he was injured last week.
Okay.
Because I heard Stefanski today give like an injury report, and he said he'll be back this week.
David Bell had a huge 3rd down conversion last week.
Yeah, he had 1 catch for 3 yards, and it was the biggest catch of the game.
Yeah.
Well,
one of. Yeah. All right. So, how about defensive rookie of the year? Do you have one in mind yet?
There's a no. I don't know the rookies.
See, this
not
one,
like I normally do.
Yeah, this one would be harder. Well, that's because we're not really drafting like first round anymore, the Browns, so we're not as invested.
Yeah. But
for me, and it's also kind of like similar with Miles, he's kind of a product of being on such a great defense, but I would say Jalen Carter.
He's crazy right now. I don't even remember him being a rookie. Yeah. Like, he's playing like a 10-year vet.
Right. But that's another team like the Eagles that you can just kind of plug and play, your defensive linemen, and there's not a massive drop off on the people that,
right.
The personnel changes, but the production doesn't.
Right.
So,
I don't want to backtrack, but I'm going to backtrack for 1 second because you said that. Hargrave plays for the Niners now.
Yep.
Browns were trying to get him. They made him an offer, and he ended up going to San Francisco. So we get Tomlinson.
Right.
So do you think that Tomlinson, that was part of the reason he looked so damn good? He wanted wanted to show, hey, that motherfucker ain't as good as I am.
Well, Hargrave did have a good game, but I completely agree with that.
Well, he didn't have the game Tomlinson had.
And I think that there is definitely some of that to that game. I mean, I was telling you, I like Hargrave a lot, but that year that taking some medicine.
It's warm. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't. I like Hargrave a lot. I think he's a beast. He's going to be good. But his massive breakout was last year with the Eagles.
Right.
And Dalvin Tomlinson was on kind of a bad defense and still was a shining spot on that defense for a long time. I think his consistency has been incredible. He's an Alabama boy.
I think we gave him 2 years.
3 years, I believe.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. No, I love Dalvin Tomlinson. I even said it when we were watching the game. He looks like a Brown.
He does.
He looks
like a Bulldog.
He does. It's so cool. But yeah, talking about that defense just gets me excited.
Yeah. Well, I've been trying to say forever we need to get our defense straightened out.
Well, I don't want to take too much credit, but were we not one of the people who said this defense could be historic preseason?
I know I was.
Like, we were talking about how good this defense could be before we even really
I know I was.
Yeah.
As soon as they hired Schwartz, and then they got Zadarius and Tomlinson, and they started getting linemen. Defense. Nah, I didn't really care about him.
Running the cloud.
I didn't care about him.
Yeah.
I knew, and I'm pretty sure, I wish it was on record, me telling you when we did this, before we started this podcast, we had a conversation about that, and I said, you wait and watch this defense. It's going to be historic.
No, it might even be on one of these episodes.
Well, I hope it is, because I've been saying it since they hired Schwartz.
I know. Yeah, and I think it's just finally, like, for me, my problem is I look at the Browns and I love these players. Like, I'm a big fan. So I see them, and when I look at them, especially before the season, I'm like looking at it through the lens of a fan sometimes, and I see what their potential is, and on paper how great it can be. It's cool to finally see that and be paid off by it in the actual gameplay. Like, there's been years being a Browns fan where I've seen the sum of our parts and been like, we can make runs and stuff, but usually it doesn't pan out.
That's all coaching.
I know.
That's all coaching.
And it's so good to see that finally translating to actual games and actual victories. So we did Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. We did MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. So the one other big one that I wanted to ask you is, so far through the season, who would you put up for Coach of the Year?
I thought about this because I heard somebody mention it. Dan Campbell.
Really? I love that.
Yes.
I didn't even think of that.
Dan Campbell. He's how could you not right now? He's 5-1.
Right.
He's 5-1 with, I think their defense is ranked up there. Their offense is like number 2 in the league. I mean, how could you not? How could it not be Dan? How could it be anybody else right now?
I think there's only a couple of people that I was thinking about before you had said that name, because I agree. I think that it has to be Dan Campbell right now. I mean, and his wins aren't against nobodies. Like, he beat
the Chiefs opening night. Yep.
Like, yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking like Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, those kinds of guys. But I mean,
no. See, I wouldn't even think of those guys because I look at those teams and I feel like, and this, I'm not kidding when I say this, I feel like you and I could win games with Miami.
Right.
You and I could win games with San Francisco. There ain't no way in hell I could coach that Lions team and win a game. They have talent, but it's not like those guys have. I mean, Miami has a receiving core from the gods. They're the fastest people on earth. Well, not really, but
no, yeah, no, you're right.
They got their running back. That running back you were talking about averages 12 yards a run, And granted, he hasn't played all that much, but he averages 12 yards a run. He's fast as hell. Tyreek Hill's the fastest man in the NFL. That other receiver they have, what's his name? Waddle. He's fast as hell. I mean,
Mostert is a Olympian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I could win games like Mike McDaniel's winning games, but I feel like I could coach that team, like call plays wise, anyways. Because I don't know about coaching the guys, but like actual calling plays to win games,
showing up and being the OC.
Yeah, I think I could win games with that team.
I agree. I think that the Detroit is building that way, though. I mean, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams came back from it.
Yeah.
You know, they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery.
Yeah, but hell, they don't even play. And Montgomery's hurt now. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on IR, but he got hurt. I heard that today.
Well, that'd be. I mean,
because I haven't. Well, for anybody listening, we haven't watched the game. We just watched the Browns game, and I watched a half of the Cowboys game last night. That's all the football I've watched. I've been working.
Well, yeah, and I've been sick. And honestly, with how that Browns game went with the Ravens, it just left a taste in my mouth. You know, I didn't watching football made me a little sick. So
yeah, it did.
But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up the first quarter of the season. So the last thing I want to talk about before kind of wrapping up is what you think going forward the Browns will look like, and then how the league will shape up going towards the end. Because before the season started, we did our record prediction. We did kind of our Super Bowl picks. So I want to see how those changed, having seen a little bit. So we won't go through game by game like we did before, but based off what you've seen the Browns be so far this season, what do you think, if you had to guess what our record ending the season would be? Has it changed at all?
Yeah, because I had them at 14-3, and that was contingent on Deshaun Watson,
right?
And he hasn't played 2 games, so we lost 1 game. We won 1 game, so I know we're going to lose a couple more. I think they have to win 11 games. They have to. I don't know how it's going to shake out. But I said before the season started, San Fran was a must-win. We have to win it. We have to prove to everybody that we're badass. And they didn't do that. They won the game, but everybody's talking about how, well, you know, the 49ers, they lost Debo early in the game, and they lost McCaffrey, and Trent Williams got banged up in the game. That's because Myles Garrett kicked his fucking ass.
Right. They beat the shit out of him.
And no one's saying that. I was listening to the radio today, and who's the former Steeler that's a commentator? I liked it. Ryan Clark.
Ryan Clark, yeah.
He was saying how basically the way he made it sound, this is not verbatim, and this is how I took it, is basically the Niners lost that game because they lost McCaffrey and they lost Debo and Trent Williams was hurt, and the defense played good for the Browns. And if it wouldn't have been for McCaffrey getting hurt and Debo getting hurt, and Purdy didn't know how to operate the offense without his guys there. Well, Debo started the game. Debo started a fight. Debo got caramelized and freaking got put out of the game. McCaffrey got hurt because he played a defense that came out to kick his ass, and that's exactly what happened. So those two going out, okay, they lost Debo, they lost McCaffrey. Williams stayed in and played the whole game, and Myles just killed him. So then Ryan Clark didn't mention, oh, well, by the way, the Browns started their 3rd string quarterback. They're former all-pro quarterback, didn't even play. They're missing an all-pro left guard, an all-pro right tackle. They're missing their all-pro, all-world running back. And and by the way, they're playing with a 3rd string quarterback that's only been in the program for a month. None of that's mentioned.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me, is that, to me, as big a win as that is for the Browns, that's a bad stain on 49ers to me because, yeah, okay, they didn't have two of their superstars. That they did play some of the game.
No,
but
McCaffrey played till like 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
We were missing at least 4 of our top 10 players.
Yeah.
And no one says anything about that.
Nope.
We still beat the best team in the world.
Right.
So I love Ryan Clark. I give no roses to that take whatsoever. I think that is ridiculous.
That's a lazy take because he's a Browns hater.
Yeah.
He was a Steeler.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which I get. That's fine. But we'll see. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. We'll see.
So 11-6 is what you think we have to be.
I think we have to be that.
I was right there with you. I was thinking if I had to say what I thought our record would be, I would say 11-6 or 10-7 is where I'm.
See, I don't think 10-7 is going to cut it.
I don't think so either. But I think that's where. I think that would be if you underperformed, you would be 10-7.
So, is there 3 wild card teams?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to have Buffalo or Miami coming out of the East.
And one of them will be
a wild card. You're going to have Kansas City coming out of the West. You're going to have who's the South? Jags coming out of the South. No, the Jags will come out of the South. So there's your 3 other teams. So it's between, in my opinion, the Ravens and the freaking Browns.
Right.
So I think the Ravens, after looking at their schedule, they're 4-2. I could see them losing to us, losing to the Bengals, which they already beat the Bengals at home. But if the Bengals get their shit straight, they could lose to the Bengals.
They play the 49ers,
yeah. Yeah, they'll lose to them. And then I don't really see – I mean, they play the Rams. Depends on the Rams you get, But they're 4-2, so they'd have to lose 4 more games. So if they lost to us, I don't think they'll lose to the Steelers. The Steelers suck. But if they lose to us, lose to the Rams, lose to the Niners, I think they play Miami. I think. I don't know. But they have to get 4 losses.
Because we play the Jets.
Right. If they get 4 more losses, which would be hard for me to fathom them getting 4 losses with the remainder schedule that they have. Because they play all the teams we do, plus a couple that we don't. Like they'll play, I think, Miami. I think I saw Miami.
They've played already some of the easier teams on their schedule.
Well, I get that.
Like, I think that I could see them. And that's also saying that Lamar stays healthy for the rest of the season. So I see them. I think our strength of schedule is much easier than theirs is going forward. And us coming out of this first part 3-2, I think says more than them coming out 4-2. I mean, they lost to Indy. They barely. Well, I don't know if they did beat Houston pretty handily. But that was
no, they lost to Houston.
Did they?
Houston beat them.
Okay, well then there you go. They play the Jags yet, and then they play Tennessee. They beat Tennessee.
They beat Tennessee.
Okay, so anyway, I think that you have Miami, Buffalo. You've got KC and the Jags. That's 4 teams. I think you can have 2 come from the North. You could have us win, Ravens get in on the wild card, or vice versa. I don't know if the Chargers are going to, the Chargers tend to fizzle out as the year goes on.
Charger.
Right, so you could only have 1 team come from the West, because I don't think the Broncos are going to do it. I don't think the Raiders are going to do it. I don't think that you're going to have 2 AFC South teams, Tennessee.
So, okay, you got the North, you got the South, you got the East, you got the West, right?
Right.
So you got 4 divisions. So you got 4 of those. So let's say we don't win our division and Baltimore does. So you got, let's just say, for instance, it's Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Jacksonville. So those are your 4 division winners. So you got to come up with 3 non-divisions. Right. So you got Miami. They're going to be in it, I would think, unless there's some serious injuries. So you got Miami. So who else could come out of the – nobody else out of the East. The South probably isn't going to happen. The West, so you'd have the Chargers. Well, you could have 3 teams in the North.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that because Well, I would think two. Or you're talking about wild card teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's two wild card teams that could come from the North and three teams in total for sure. Because I don't have a lot of faith in the Chargers. I don't think the Jets or the Patriots are coming out. I don't think anybody in the South is. So if that's the case, then I think you could. I think it's the Browns. If they go 10-7, I think they could sneak in.
They could.
But I don't want that.
I want to win the division and have a playoff game at home.
Yes, that I think would be huge if you're trying to make a run, because you saw how much that home crowd affects teams.
Right.
And I think it happened with Cincinnati too. So I'm curious to see how that goes. If I had to guess it, I would say I'm still very high on them. We have 2 losses. Honestly, if they play like they did last week, I don't see them losing anymore. I could see them going 12-5.
Well, okay. You're right. If they play like they did last week, which I expect the defense to play like that every week. That's why I was so disappointed with the Ravens' loss. I didn't expect our offense to do anything. I did not expect our defense to roll over in that game. And it felt like that's what happened to me. And I don't think that those guys are built like that, but that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
It felt like they played really good in the first quarter, maybe the first half. And then it's like, we got no freaking chance. This guy's horrible. We're sucking. So fuck it. Why bother? That's how it felt to me, and that probably isn't exactly how it went, but that's how it felt to me watching it. And that was very disappointing. So I'm hoping that never happens again. If that never happens again and that defense plays like angry like they did yesterday, we could go undefeated the rest of the year.
They're the only teams on the schedule, say we go 11-6. Those losses, I think, would have to come from all 3 of our divisions games being losses, and then us losing to the Jags. I don't see us losing to the Jags. I think that Trevor Lawrence could have 4 picks in that game, because he's going to lose his mind when he sees that defense. I think if that defense plays like it did last week against the Ravens, even if we have shit quarterback play, I think they beat them.
Well, no. I said all that to say this. We played the Ravens with shit quarterback play, and they got picks in short fields.
Right.
So the defense isn't going to – if you got 10 yards to score, it's hard to not score.
Right.
I mean, at least get – and then they got Justin Tucker. So if we throw 2 picks and they run it down and get within 40 yards of the goal line, that's 3 points.
Right. You get them on their side of the field, it's almost always points.
Right. So that's what I worry about, because now I expect Deshaun, if he comes back and plays, he better look good this week. Otherwise,
is he going to play this week?
It's still up in the air from what they said. He's day to day. But from what I've heard people saying is he's playing this week.
He has to. I mean...
Well, let me ask you this question. If he can play this week, why the hell couldn't he have played last week?
He played through the game he got injured in.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I know. I don't get it. How I like to think of it is he's trying to make sure that is completely good so that it's not a hindrance for the rest of the season. But the thing is if I'm a quarterback and I have a nagging injury, I'm going to get up for the best competition no matter what.
Well, see, that leads me to think that this was the mindset going into last week. We're going to sit Deshaun because he's going to get fucked. Our line has sucked, and he's going to get destroyed. So I actually think in the locker room that the line's like, you know what? Fuck this. Let's take this game. I think both lines said, this is ours. We're doing it. Because I know everybody was down on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Just horrible. And they started Michael Dunn. That guy has a calf injury, and he played that whole game, and he looked like a man possessed. You know, that guy last year, was it last year or the year before? No, it was the year prior, the COVID year. He came in I think they called him. He flew in, no practice. I think it's this guy. He flew in, no practice, started the game, didn't even know the play calls. I think the center had to tell him what to do, and he played like a Greek god, and he did it again. I think it's the same guy. I could be wrong.
Well, that's the thing that I was saying when we were watching the game. I was like, you didn't even know Michael Dunn was playing.
No.
Because they never said his name. He played exactly like you want backup to play. Like, he was perfect.
Right.
And that's the same thing that's been going on with DeJuan Jones all season. It seems like the people of them bringing down the line this year have been the guys that we've been
trusted on.
Yeah. The guard play hasn't been what it normally is. So, and I don't think that's something that's going to continue. I think that there's a lot of stuff that I feel like is going to change throughout the season, and has to.
I said it before the season started. The Browns, in my opinion, if Deshaun Watson is average, which he's had one game where he's been average, in my opinion, and we won that game, and the defense played lights out, and we kicked the shit out of Tennessee. We've had one game where he's been, I'll give you above average a little bit. If he can play average, not turn the ball over, and just play average, we're a Super Bowl team. If he doesn't, we're 7-10. That's the way it's going to go. Because if he turns the ball over, gives up short fields, or scores on turnovers, that's the way. That's the Pittsburgh loss. That's the only way we should lose games from here on out.
Well, this is what I'll say then. That was our biggest question going into the season. We were like saying this is a playoff team, maybe even a Super Bowl team. If Deshaun plays the way that we hope he does. If not, then we're going to be average. So throughout the first quarter of the season, you've had him playing not very good, and you're still 3-2. I think that says a lot.
He didn't
about
play
the
a
team.
game.
Yeah, that's true. But then
he didn't play 2 games.
And also, too, I wanted to ask you. You said you'd give him 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 6th game.
He hasn't played 6 games.
Well, I consider it a no-show as part of the.
Well, I would like to do that because, in my opinion, this is game 6, right?
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah.
How he plays in this game, I'll know what he is. That's my opinion.
I think so too.
If he comes out and he plays like he did in Tennessee, I'll give him one more game. If he comes out and plays like he did against Pittsburgh, he didn't play against the Ravens. So what's he played? 3 freaking games this year?
Yeah, he played.
So he's 1-2.
2-1, because we beat Cincy, but
the defense beat Cincy.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's still the same questions that we were asking preseason are the same ones we're asking ourselves now. You know, is Deshaun capable of being who he is and being, a above average starting quarterback in the league? I think if you can get him to even be similar to what he used to be, or I don't know, maybe you don't need him to be what he was in Houston.
I don't need him to be what he was in Houston.
You need him to recreate himself into the Browns quarterback.
I need him to be a top 15 quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. That's all I need. I don't need Purdy. Yeah, I don't need freaking Patrick Mahomes. I don't need it. Not with this defense. And as long as we have Jim Schwartz, that should be the formula that the Browns use. The formula that we used with P.J. Walker as our quarterback is the formula that Kevin Stefanski, I praying to God, goes with from here on out.
Yeah.
Because if Deshaun gets back to just average, because he has a cannon. He has a cannon for an arm. And he's accurate when he's good. When he's good, he's accurate. All he's got to be is accurate and not turn the freaking ball over. If he can do that and run here and there, like when it's there, run. Like I'm pretty sure he would have ran on that ball that Walker threw.
Right.
So if if he can just do,
or at least throwing it away or something.
No, you don't throw it away.
Yeah,
We're trying to drain clock.
Yeah.
So,
but that's better than throwing in a triple coverage. So,
yeah. I mean, we got lucky in that game.
Yeah.
In a lot of spots because they should have had probably 5 picks.
They missed the kick to win the game.
Right.
We got lucky as hell.
Right. Well, not really. I mean, we all know what a rookie quarterback is.
Right. All right. Well, we're getting towards the end here. I got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So, we did the Browns, what we see going forward with them. How about the league? If you had to guess right now what the AFC Championship game would be, based off what we've seen, who would you go with?
AFC Championship game?
Yeah.
Oh. I'd say probably I'd like to say the Browns and the Chiefs, but I can't say that right now. I can't put the Browns in there right now, and I can't put the Chiefs in there right now. So yeah. I would say probably, from what I've seen so far, probably the Dolphins and the AFC is so tough.
It is.
The Dolphins and I'll say the Bills. The Dolphins and Bills.
I think that I'll do it. I'm going to put I can see the path that the Browns get to the AFC Championship game. I see them, and I would predict Browns versus Miami. Because I think we could beat KC, and I think Miami could beat KC. I think we could beat Buffalo.
I know we can beat Kansas City.
Yeah. I definitely think we could. So I would say I think the Browns just need to make the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, it's going to be crazy. I think that the Browns, Miami would be my guess. And then we'll flip it over. I guess I got a couple more than 2 questions.
Okay.
Next one, who do you see in the NFC Championship game?
Niners and Eagles again.
Okay. I see Detroit and the Niners. And I think that'd be sick.
Well, I think Detroit plays the Niners this year in the regular season.
I think it's gonna be an awesome game.
Dude, I would love it to be a Lions-Browns Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of what I was thinking.
That would be awesome.
Well, okay. Imagine you have Miami versus the Browns in the AFC Championship, and then you got Niners versus Detroit in the NFC Championship. That's a lot of. I mean, the Niners are there, but that's a lot of new people.
Yeah.
I think that'd be sick. I think that's something that the league could definitely use. And then, so for me,
no, the Lions do not play the Niners. No.
Okay. So then, based off of your predictions, who would you say the Super Bowl would consist of?
Off mine, I'd say probably Miami and San Fran.
Okay.
And San Fran would kill them.
Okay. So you're taking San Fran as of right now.
Wow.
I don't think that.
I think San Fran. I think it's going to be San Fran. Going just from what I've seen, which I don't think it's going to go like this, but I think what's going to happen if I'm playing this season so far on Xbox, and I'm just randomly playing the games, like what do they call it? Where you just let the computer simulate the games. I could see it being like Kansas City and Miami in the AFC Championship game, San Fran in either Detroit, Seattle, or the Eagles. But I think it would be the San Fran and the Eagles in the championship game. San Fran going to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, I honestly think if I can just get an average Deshaun Watson, it would be the Browns in the Super Bowl. So it'd be Browns and either San Fran or Detroit would be the way that I think it should go. But who knows? Because I think Tua is going to end up getting hurt. in all honesty. I don't want that to happen, but I think he's going to get hurt. One hit, he could be done. I'm not worried about the Ravens because Lamar is going to get hurt at some point. He's going to get hurt. Buffalo, God, I don't even know what Buffalo is anymore.
Right.
They look like world beaters one game, the next game they look like Buffalo reminds me of us.
Yeah.
Like their quarterback is either a world beater or he's ass right now.
Yeah.
But I think that's all going to straighten itself out. But I don't know. It's I don't even like making predictions like that because this week I had the Browns losing 30-10.
Right.
And there was no way in hell I thought the Eagles were going to lose the freaking Jets.
Well, you got to do their predictions, though.
Well, okay, then I guess I'd say it'd be Miami and San Fran in the Super Bowl, or San Fran will win it.
Okay. So I would say, and this is probably going to make people upset, but I think that the Browns could beat, if it's an AFC, if I say that's the AFC Championship game, I think the Browns beat Miami. Because I think that we have the best secondary in the entire NFL to match up with their receivers.
Right.
And also, too, like you were saying earlier, Tua's not going to have the time to let a lot of those plays develop. They run a lot of horizontal motion that's, I think, gets negated by how our linebackers go downhill. So I don't see them being nearly as successful against us. So if I say that, then I think that it's the Browns in the Super Bowl. And did I say my NFC prediction? Detroit and San Fran? Mm-hmm. I think San Fran wins that, and it's a rematch of this past week in the Super Bowl. And I think if that's the case, then I think that that's one of the best games ever. Because I could see it going the way that it did this weekend, or I could see us losing a tie one against them. I have a hard time guessing who would win that, but if I had to guess.
Well, if you're going to live in that fantasy world, you might as well just say the Browns are winning it.
I'm saying it. The Browns are winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, I could see it, man. I really can. I know that's going to make me sound like a homer, but really, truly, when I think about this defense playing the way it is, if you can negate anybody's offense, then you can win a Super Bowl. And I don't think it's that hard for Deshaun to play average. I mean, he's too good to not be an average quarterback at some point throughout the season. That's crazy to say.
Jesus Christ.
But it's true. And so if that's...
Can I say one thing quick?
Yes.
This has been on my mind for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
I listen to radio guys talk about Deshaun. And like guys like me will call in and they'll be like, he makes $230 million. He needs to play better. And then there's a couple certain guys who are like, it's all about the money. You guys are just focused on the money.
Yeah, I hate that.
The money. I don't give a rat's ass about the money. My point is they paid him $230 million to be the Deshaun Watson that was in Houston.
Right.
We have yet to see that Deshaun Watson in Houston. So until we do, the money is an issue. Because that money that they're paying that clown, and right now I'm going to call him a clown because he's not playing like an average quarterback. He had one game.
Right.
1 out of 5 games now. He hasn't played in 2 of them.
Right.
So if I could take that $230 million and spread it across and get me an average court like a Jacoby Brissett for $8 million a year, and then surround him with Tyreek Hill, Nick Chubb, guys like that, we're a Super Bowl team, especially with the defense we have.
Well, I'll say this. I think, like I've said plenty of times, I think we've played the hardest people we're going to play all season so far in this. And Deshaun, when he did play, was 2-1. So if you went 2-1 the entire season, then you're a playoff team. If you win 66% of your games, you are in the playoffs. So I think if you get that Browns defense to the playoffs, it makes some noise. And I know that's me being a homer and dreaming.
No, that's not why I'm shaking my head. I'm shaking my head because you're talking just like all the other talking heads do.
How is that? You're 2-1 when a guy has played one good game. that should tell you how good your team is.
Right.
And
But
you played the hardest.
You're telling me PJ Walker's 1-0.
Yeah. That shows how good your team is.
That shows how good my team is.
So if you have
The bad part is like you said, we've played the hardest part of our schedule so far. I think we've played the easiest part of our schedule so far, other than the Niners. If you remember, I had us going like 7-0 before we lost a game.
I do remember that.
And I've said it 20 times today. The Ravens blow. I don't know how they win games. John Harbaugh must go and cut up chickens to the devil before each game. I don't know. I don't know how they do it, because that quarterback blows. Nobody can convince me otherwise. He cannot throw the ball. All that guy can do is run the ball. That's it. He cannot throw. Steelers suck. Balls. It's proven. It's played out. As soon as TJ Watt gets hurt, that team's fucking done. Because that's it. The Titans blow. The Bengals blow. That's 4 games. Deshaun played against 3 of those teams. He's 2-1 against teams that blow. PJ Walker's 1-0 against a Super Bowl team. So I don't need to pay $230 million for a guy to play average when I can pluck a guy from the XFL, put him on there, pay him $500,000, and he can win a game. If you're going to sit there and say Deshaun Watson is 2-1, he's not 2-1. The defense is 2-1. I get so tired of hearing that shit.
Well, that's fair.
Jacoby Brissett was, what was Jacoby? 4-7 or something like that. But he didn't lose the freaking games.
The whole problem with the $230 million thing for me is he took $230 million. Okay, if you're offered $230
yeah, I'm taking
fully guaranteed, take it. I don't think that should be something that's used against him as an argument. It hurts the team because you could use that resource to make so many other positions better. But I don't think you can use that in the evaluation of Deshaun Watson. But I also think that you haven't seen the best Deshaun Watson we're going to see this season. Even if you take the Tennessee game, I don't think we are. And you can say what you want about the Ravens and Lamar sucking. That entire team doesn't suck, and they're coached very well. Tennessee, that entire team doesn't suck, and they're coached well. And Cincinnati was in the AFC Championship game. So I don't think those teams suck. I think that those wins were entire team wins. And you're right, you can't go and say that Deshaun Watson's 2-1 because it took the entire team to win all those games, especially the defense. But with him at the helm in those games, that team was 2-1. So if he remains at the helm and wins 2 out of every 3 games, then that's a playoff team. That's kind of what I was trying to say. I agree with you that he's played like shit, and he's not anything close to what he was when he was in Houston. I don't think that he may ever get back there. But if he plays like Kirk Cousins, because I think his highs are better than Kirk Cousins' highs anytime in his career. But if he just plays
Wait a minute. I got to stop you right there.
Why?
I've seen Deshaun play now. If you're going to count like you said, we're going into game 6 now.
Yeah.
He played 6 games last year, so this will be 12 games. If he plays like he did in Tennessee, let's just say it's exactly like in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. His highs aren't anywhere near as a Cleveland Brown.
That's Brown.
No. Well, 3 years ago, I'd have said Kirk Cousins blows. Yeah. And tonight, I said he's probably a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm not going back to 5 years ago when he played on Houston's team. Because it's been 3 years since he's really played for Houston.
Right.
So take 3 years away. If I just go from last year, the time Kirk Cousins started, or Deshaun Watson started playing in game 11, and match his stats with Kirk Cousins, it's not even fucking close. And Kirk Cousins last year was 13-3. They didn't have a defense. He was the reason they were winning games.
Had a rookie head coach.
Yeah, he was the reason they were winning games. There's not a game that I've seen Deshaun Watson play in as a Brown that I can say that. Not one. Not one. Not even the Tennessee game.
That's why I'm saying if you get Kirk Cousins out of Deshaun,
You get Kirk Cousins out of Deshaun, we're fucking winning the Super Bowl.
that's why I'm saying I think I do think that's attainable for Deshaun. I don't know that he's going to be the MVP of the league ever again.
Dude, he's got a long, and I guess my point on that is he's got a damn long way to go.
Yes, and I think that with my next question I'll get to in a second, but going forward, I think that is much more attainable than you have a guy who's been a superstar quarterback since the time he was in high school. That's 10 plus years now. Actually, yeah, probably 10 years. I think that it's more likely that he and I have no reason to say this other than I believe this to be the case. I think you are who you are, and I think it is much more likely for him to revert back to being more of a superstar than it is for him to be a shit quarterback for the rest of his Browns career. Right now, he's playing like a kind of shit quarterback. I think it's much more likely that we see him start making development, start getting better rapport with his receivers, especially now that we're playing people who I think have worse defenses. I see him being better, and I see that more likely than him not being. And I think that's not the case for a lot of people.
Well, definitely not this person.
I know.
Because, like I said 2 minutes ago, he hasn't played a good football game in 3 years. 3 years. Now, Peyton Manning's been out of the league for 6 years. He won the Super Bowl. Or he was in the Super Bowl and lost, or whatever. However, he finished his career. Set the league record in touchdown passes, and the very next year, he sucked ass.
Well, he won that year, and he retired.
Right. But he sucked that year.
Yeah.
That defense
he didn't have
carried them through the Super Bowl.
Right.
So who's to say? I mean, he was pushing 40, but who's to say Deshaun at, what is he, 29?
Yeah.
He might be done. Oh. And from what I'm seeing, it's harder for me to think like you, going from what I see, because he's not getting better.
Well,
he's just not.
If that's the case, though, but the thing is that if you can't say that because the last time we saw him was with Tennessee, and that was his best game. So he is. If that's the last game, then he is getting better. But I know there's a lot of question marks surrounding him, and that's going to be a topic we talk about probably quite a bit on the podcast.
I'm tired of talking about it. I just want him to be fucking good. Right. So they played Tennessee, what, week 4? 3. It's week 3. He was 27 or 33 with 2 TDs, 289 yards. And I remember saying at the time, that's a good stat line.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's a good stat line.
That was also the game where he threw it 8 yards behind him to Elijah Moore, though.
Right. So let me look here. The Tennessee game, he was 27 of 33, 81% completion percentage, 289 yards per attempt, 8.8, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. Okay. We ran the ball 10, 6, 16, 25, 7, 31 times. So we were pretty balanced that game. His longest pass was, hang on, let me find it. They don't have that on there. So, anyways, so that was his best game as Brown. That's average. Mm-hmm. So his best game so far has been average. Mm-hmm. And that was game 3. So that was 9 games in to his Browns career, and he played average. And I'm going to celebrate average. And this is where
what was his completion percentage?
81%.
There's nothing average about that.
Well,
there isn't.
I watched the game.
I know. He looked average in that game. I agree. Stats, you can't go.
So, if I read the stats, I'm like, oh, damn, that's really good. 81% completion percentage. Right. That's great. That's, oh, my God. Whoa, I'm going to suck him off. Oh, no, he played average. I watched the game. I watch all the games. Mm-hmm. And that's average. Most people would say, oh, that's Pro Bowl type. It's not. It's not. And if that is the best that I've seen in 9 games, like, really, dude?
Yeah.
That's where the money comes in.
Yeah.
Like, I can't sit here and say it enough. Like, if he bombs out, it doesn't matter how good our defense is. If he plays like he did week 2, where he was 22 of 40 for 55%, 235 yards, sacked 6 times, 1 interception and 1 TD.
The thing with that game is I think, an entire outlier. We're putting a ton of stock into that Pittsburgh game. I think that's an outlier. You had Nick Chubb, who was a huge part of that game plan, as we said, go down in a horrific way. The entire team is deflated. You're in their stadium. You had the first play of the game, a ball bounce off your tight end's hands and go for a touchdown. There's so many factors in that game that make it seem like one-off, something that you can't really put in your evaluation. I mean, you can because it happened, but
Well, no, I've said it, and I'll say it here too. I'm not counting that game against him.
well, then if you say that, then and we're just talking about this season so far we've seen of him. His 2 games he won, and I know what you're gonna say. He didn't win. The defense won, and there's definitely a lot of truth to that. But he was at the helm of the offense when the team won. I think you have that throughout the rest of the season, and you're going to be solid. I think he made plays in those games that PJ Walker obviously can't do what he did this week. I think he made plays that DTR so far can't make, and I think if he remains healthy throughout the season, I think playoffs are an expectation. They're not something that you hope for. But we'll see how it goes.
Okay. You brought up PJ Walker. He's been in the program for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Been in the program for a month, and he won a game.
Mm-hmm.
Playing like shit.
Yeah.
Honestly. So I can compare his play to Deshaun Watson's last 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't look good. I think he would say it. He didn't look good. And they won the game on the back of the defense. They scored 17 points or 19 points. PJ Walker, using your critique format, if I critique PJ Walker the same as I do Deshaun Watson, he played just like Deshaun and won the game. So why do I care if Deshaun Watson plays this week? He's been in the program for a year and a half.
Deshaun is 5-4 through his first 9 games. That's a little bit above 500. And 3 of those losses, he didn't look good in last year. He also didn't have the defense he has this year.
Yes, he did. The defense last year when he started playing won him the first game he played in Houston. It was what, 12-6?
Yeah.
The defense won that game for him. The defense won the fucking Washington game too.
He had 3 touchdown passes in that game though.
Because the defense set him up on like the 10-yard line twice. Like, see, that's the thing.
But it's complimentary football, man.
I watched the games.
I know.
I watched the games. No one's going to sit here and tell me, I don't give a damn, wins and losses or quarterback stat my ass. I watched Jacoby, and I'll go, if I had Jacoby Brissett playing right now, we'd be undefeated.
Yeah. I know.
So,
but he also wasn't playing like an average quarterback last year.
Doesn't matter. He was a top 10 quarterback through 11 games. 11 games. Deshaun's played 9 and not played anywhere near that good. Not anywhere near that good. And Jacoby is a career backup. He's in Washington right now. Washington's sucking. And they won't even play him. I don't get it.
It's because they don't want to win, I don't think. But
well, okay. So, why don't we trade and get him back?
That would be something I would look into.
He knows the offense. He could probably come in tomorrow and run the damn offense. Yeah. And we would look so much better. I think. Because the offense, and if This is the other thing. You go back and you watch all the games from the time Baker Mayfield started and Kevin Stefanski's offense. It is the same exact offense. It has not changed. The offense, I don't care what they say. Oh, we changed a bunch of stuff and tweaked stuff and we're running plays Deshaun likes. Well, if we are, we need to change it back because it looks way worse now than it did back then.
There are a lot of new wrinkles, and not all of them very good. It's a lot of, I don't know, whatever. But yeah,
Well, we can talk about it after the next game because if he looks good.
Let's do that because I have one last question.
Okay.
And we'll wrap it up with this one. So I just want your prediction for this week's game against the Colts. If you had to...
Do I get a...
If Deshaun's in or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
If Deshaun's in, I'm going to say 26 to 10. If Deshaun's not in, I'm going to say 21 to 10.
Okay. I would say... Very similarly, if Deshaun's in, I'm going to go 28 to 10. That was the number I was thinking of. And then if Deshaun isn't playing, I think it's, let's say 21-17. Not that the defense is going to give up tons more points, but I think PJ could have a bad turnover to put the defense in a bad position. So I think that it's a win. It has to be a win. You can't go from beating San Francisco to playing the Colts and losing.
But that's normally how it goes.
It does.
Because the team that plays San Francisco the week after, other than Pittsburgh, loses.
Yeah. Well, can't have that.
I hope not. Because if we do, I'm really going to be pissy.
All right, so if you made it through all the way to here, we're going to wrap it up, I think. I just have a couple of housekeeping things I want to say. So... like I told you, we took a couple of weeks off because I was really sick, and we just, after that Ravens loss, it was hard to really talk about football for a little bit. But we're back. We're going to be doing weekly uploads again. I'm going to be promoting it on all the social media platforms and everything. And if you are enjoying the show, definitely let us know. When it's on YouTube, let us know. If you're enjoying it, subscribe. Or leave a like or a comment letting us know what you like, what you don't, how we can change. This is our first run at this thing. So the more we hear from you guys and what you guys like, the better we can shape it to what you guys are looking for. Now on top of that too, I was talking to you about this. I like to put the podcast on for the dogs. They enjoy listening to it. And a lot of people put stuff on TV for their dogs when they're away or something, give them something to listen to. So we are chilling with the dogs, If you don't have anything for them to listen to, all dogs love the Browns. So throw it on for the dogs, let them listen to it. We enjoy hanging out with the dogs.
Yep.
But anyway.
Dogs are my favorite people.
Yep. Alrighty, well that's been chilling with the dogs this week. Looking forward to another Browns win. We'll come back at you guys next week. Have a great one. See ya.
Hang on. Who's the quarterback for them?
Gardner Minshew, I think, right?
Minshew, we're coming for you.
Ooh, I like it. We'll see you. Thank you for listening to the Chillin' with the Dogs podcast. Our episodes drop Friday mornings. You can catch them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and a lot more podcasting apps to come. You can also find it on my YouTube page at Justice Garber on YouTube. And if you'd like to support the channel, you could always watch some more videos. I make all different kinds of content. And then you can also like, comment, subscribe, follow my social medias at Justice Garber. But we really appreciate you guys checking it out, and we can't wait to get more for you next week.